Boom. I'm leading the show. Boom. Perfect.
Okay, so boom, bro. We're going to continue on. The fans got questions, and hopefully we got maybe an answer. Maybe.
We can run around it.
Okay, so boom. Dealing with toxic behavior in yourself. Super, super relatable. Because I feel like everybody is like a Jekyll and Hyde. Everyone is like God and Satan. And we just, there's no way to get around that. Even the best of us. In fact, if you look spotless, I'm even more like, what's going on with you, bro? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you have a dungeon?
Yeah, I definitely get that. So is he saying like, how do you deal with it? Is that what he said?
Yeah. How to deal with it, how to come to terms with it. I think that's how I'm rating that. What's your take?
Well, I would say one, are you toxic or is your environment toxic? Sometimes you can become toxic when you're not. Like, for example, I had a friend who was younger, and I always knew him to be a very good kid. He was always super positive, but his parents and his brothers, they were super toxic. And so he became, everything he would say, he'd come back and, I hate that. Oh, that's the worst. It would regurgitate. It was like he got all sticky, and then he came out and made everything he touched sticky. And he wasn't the one who was toxic. And so I had this, I knew myself, because I knew the kid, he's not the one that's toxic. It's his environment. And, that was the thing that he struggled with. And the only way to get over that was if he left his environment.
Yeah.
Or if he caught on to it. And I've seen that myself. There's been times where I've been in places where my environment is just totally negative.
Just rubbing off on
it. Just sucks.
Getting that toxic all over me.
And I truly do believe this, because I've experienced it and lived it. The only way to get out of toxic places is to leave. I don't think you can overcome it. So I think you have to actually physically leave it.
So I'm going to disagree with you only because of one thing, right? I've known people that became toxic, like you said, right? And no fault of their own, because you could be like the most woke person ever, but you still can get influenced, and you might not even know it, right? Like, you loved meat before, you moved to LA, and now you're vegan. You know what I'm saying? So my whole thing is this. If you cannot overcome your demons in the worst place, you're never going to overcome them just because you're in a new place. Sometimes, yes, a change of scenery is great. But if you are naturally attracted to toxic places where you are, you're going to find them. Those demons will follow you even if you go to a new place.
Yeah, I can see that. No, I can see that.
Yeah, like if you're the type of person who's just always looking at life through the lens of a pessimistic person, you're always looking at negative things. You're always finding those group of people that do the same drugs that you used to, the low lives. You're always looking for that because you're not comfortable enough to be with like better people.
Yeah, I would say that does come at a responsibility of yourself. Like if you find yourself always growing poorly, always just kind of ruining things and making everything toxic, then you need to reevaluate who you are yourself. Right. But what I'm trying to say is like, say there's a plant, it's a great like a tomato or something like that, and it's the best kind of tomato you can make, the most rich, plump red tomato. But the soil is just this gray, dusty stuff. Yeah. And you have two of the same seeds. You put one in rich soil, you put one in the poor one. If you put the same amount of water and sunshine, one's going to grow slower and it's going to grow more yellow and small. The other one's going to grow big and rich and green and red. And I feel like that's the part where you can't just tell that tomato to get better, to grow smarter. You have to rip it out and you have to put it to somewhere else. You have to put it in a better soil.
True, but the good thing is we're not tomatoes, fam.
Well, we are. We're pieces of life. We are affected by our environment. We are. We're affected by everything around us.
Okay. So how about this, right? Now that we've already established it's infected, right? They've acquired toxic things within themselves. Right. I have toxic things about myself because of my past. Right. I was always a consequences of everyone else's shitty decisions when I was a kid. which led to me acquiring a whole bunch of bad habits, right? And I didn't really know how to be a positive person until later in life. And I still struggle with a lot of things when it comes to that. So how to deal with it, right? How to manage that shit. One, the best thing to do if you have toxic traits is to be straight up honest with it. Because if you're not honest with yourself, you can't be honest with other people. And it's when somebody else calls you out on it, you're not going to be ready because you're denying yourself. And you're going to keep denying that until you find yourself in a really, really bad place. I say one, admit it, admit the truth. And two, like say it and own up to it, but not in a way of giving in. I don't think you should give in to your toxic traits. I think you should acknowledge it, call it out for what it is. But as long as you are making strives to deal with it and move forward in whatever capacity that is for you.
So for example, someone's like, hey, I've really noticed myself. I'm always kind of negative. I always see the negative in somebody. Is that what you're kind of thinking of? Like,
yeah. I would say more than that. So for instance, right, I had childhood trauma, and that led to me being like super hypersexual when I became like older, like after I lost my virginity, right? So and that was a really toxic thing about myself. So now I had two choices. I could either say the world says it's a-okay to be a slut and there's no shame in my game and it's just sex and I'm gonna just go out here doing my thing, right? Because I could. In today's society, I could do that. Or I could say this is doing absolutely nothing for my self-esteem. So what I'm going to do is at 8 p.m., I'm going to jerk off so that way I don't make bad decisions. And I'm going to put my phone on airplane mode past 11 p.m. That's me realizing I got toxic traits and I have to manage that shit. I have to work around it, right? I have to do other things to make sure that I'm a better person in the long run instead of giving into it. You know what I mean?
I see.
Yeah. What about you? You have something that's toxic a little bit. I feel like you're a golden child, so it's hard.
I think, but I've done my very best to try to. I mean, I'm sure I do, man. I bet I have like a ton of stuff.
Take a guess. What do you think is your most toxic?
I would probably say my most toxic is probably like the leniency I give people sometimes when they're trying to do something. Like sometimes I've been one to just like basically like
it's okay because when you're talking about toxic shit, especially with yourself, sometimes it's like uncomfortable a bit to.
Well, it's funny because we actually had this happen. So it's like sometimes I'll push things out, a little further. Just because like I do see myself like just being more chill, and I feel like that can sometimes be a leniency or a toxic thing. That leniency is a toxic.
So you're dealing with like constantly saying yes, filling your plate, and not meeting obligations sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then being like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I was going to come over to the podcast tomorrow. Maybe the next day.
We said tomorrow so many times.
I was pissed. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's all right, man. We're here. Exactly how it's supposed to be.
But I acknowledge it, and I'm trying to get better.
And that's all you could do.
And so there we go.
That's all you could do, man.
Yeah.
What's next? For
okay, so the one that I had, this one is kind of a huge question. And so this guy, he says, he said, where do you find meaning in your life? So boom,
where do you
meaning
find
in life?
This one's tough because we're living in the post-religious era. I feel like if you look back in prior 1950s, America was, people were still praying in school. People went to church. People kind of took that shit seriously. And even if they didn't completely, like, they at least respected it. Now it's kind of unpopular to be religious. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, it is.
You're just kind of whack. You're judgmental. You might even be racist. So, and I think a lot of people are struggling with that. What is the new code of ethics that I can latch onto? Where do I find my meaning now? What's your take, man?
So I'm actually glad you brought this up with, spirituality and religion, because I think it's very closely tied to that. I honestly don't think that the world can give us that much meaning and purpose. And that's why we have to know certain things. I don't think you can just sum up purpose, you have to know it. And I think everyone has unique purposes, but there is only one purpose, which we are all here on earth. And religion teaches that before we came to this earth, God, he made a plan for us to be happy, to be more like him. And we're on this earth to be more like him. And the only way to do that is to read his word and his scripture.
So basically bring the example to the world and make it better through that. That's the purpose.
Yep.
For you. Yep. See,
I feel like for everybody.
For everybody, but not everybody believes that. So
I know,
that's why I'm saying
but even though they don't believe it yet, or if they don't accept it yet, if you follow the things that are taught in the Bible, you will find more meaning.
I feel that because when I went from religious to agnostic, I had a huge issue with this whole meaning, right? Because my meaning went from like not ending up in hell to like, shit, well, I can do what I want, baby. Let's go. And then so now I'm sitting here like, well, shit, man, if nothing's off the table, then, you know, where can I go? I could go anywhere. But where is my meaning in life? So I'm going to give two sides of the story. One, my meaning of life is to not go to hell. The second meaning of life for me is to find whatever I'm good at, my strengths, and put that on a pedestal to better myself and other people. Like not just myself. Because I feel like that's where things kind of go wrong. Like if you only look at bettering yourself. Like congrats. Like, you know, you bettered yourself, but you know, it's a two-way street, right? Like imagine having a conversation where only you won. You know what I'm saying? Instead of like a conversation where two people walk away better, imagine a conversation where it only fed you and then you just like go on your merry way. Yeah. Same thing with life. I feel like a good meaning to me in life is to find whatever your strengths are, find it out as early as possible. The way you do that is finding out who you are honestly, very honestly, as soon as possible. Then hone in on that. Make that your meaning and make yourself and somebody else better, because after you're gone, all that's going to be left is the decisions and the things that you did on this earth to make the world better. And I feel like now we're living in an era where it's all about me, myself, and I, and we're not leaving anything back for the next person. And so now if everybody is just grabbing theirs and leaving, well, what's next for the person behind you? You know what I mean? And I think we're reflecting, we're seeing that everywhere. I agree that
everything sort of becomes a competition in this world. And I remember something that really helped me when I went to one of my churches. He was the bishop, and I think I was going to him because of we were having a meeting or something, and he was telling me how everything's going. And I told him that, you know, things are hard, or I expressed something. I can't remember what I shared, but he said, Hunter, one of the cool things about the gospel is that everyone can receive a gold medal. And I feel like when you follow, you know, God, you start to notice that everyone you're with, you can help win. Instead of I'm first place, you're second, I have the better one, you have the least better one. It's everyone's winning. Yeah. Everyone has their own, and that's where you start to see everyone has their own unique purpose. But everyone's going on the same. They're going up.
Unfortunately, a thing that deters a lot of people from religion is it's actually been flipped on the opposite side though. I've seen people be like, well, I'm on a higher freaking level than you because you're not here with me or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, unfortunately that happens where it's just kind of like prime example. Like when I look at the Pope and shit, like, cool, you got a cool throne. You know what I'm saying? What's going on in the basement of that throne, my guy? You know what I'm saying? Mr. Pope. Like, I mean, I don't get it. But at the same time, man, long story short, I feel like the best way to find meaning in your life is to just look deep down inside into that mirror, be very honest with it, the good and the bad. I think the bad actually teaches you more than the good. And then from there, you can build everything from there. But if you always try to find meaning without knowing yourself, then you're just going to be grabbing at straws. Like, I feel like that's why people become vegan to make themselves, like, people are using outside isms to make themselves better to fill a hole. Like if I do this, then this makes me a better person. Or, you know, if just because I don't eat animals, I'm better than you. Or because, you know, I drive this, I'm better than you. When in reality, it's just because you didn't look at the deeper issue. You didn't look inside the mirror, and you're never going to fix the true issue.
I would agree.
Boom.
We're doing a survey around the country on the way population handles themselves and speaks and deals with their friends and interact with their peers.